The Burke trial is just a day or two away from the start of jury deliberations. Both sides presenting their closing arguments today.
CBS 2 political reporter Chris Tye has been in court since the start of this trial. He joins us now live in the newsroom with more on how attorneys for both sides are bringing their cases to a close. And Chris, let's start with the Burke team. How did they do this today when they were finally able to start their closing this afternoon?
Finally is the key word there, Joe. It took a long time for prosecutors to wrap. We'll get to that in a minute. Burke's lead attorney zooming out in a very long and detailed case, of course, for the jury. Weeks of testimony, dozens of witnesses, framing the Fed's case as murky. Throw it against the wall, Joe Duffy said, and let the poor jury figure it out. He told the jury it is not your job to clean up the Fed's mess. Quote, this may be the most serious thing you're asked to do in your lifetime, is how Duffy presented it. 50 years on the job, Burke knows how to cut through red tape, and that is why people come to him. He can get it done. Duffy went on to say, is he really going to spend 50 years in power, then become a corrupt person and not make a penny? We don't convict people for colorful language. We don't convict people for angry telephone calls. That is not a crime.
This came after more than 6 hours of closing arguments from federal prosecutors.
Yeah, it was a long closing from the prosecution to reinforce their theory that Burke traded political help in hopes of lucrative tax law work. The feds played the moments they want the jury to think about in deliberations, including this meeting we're going to play for you, secretly recorded by former alderman turned FBI mole Danny Solis. Burke, inside City Hall, is pitching his political help and his law firm to the developer of the old post office.
We made his daughter a judge here in Cook County, and one of his other daughters went to high school with my daughter Sarah. So we're family, personal friends.
Federal prosecutor Diane MacArthur framing that meeting between Burke and post office developer Harry Skydell this way. It really is a master class in Mr. Burke using and exerting his power. This meeting is taking place in City Hall, not at Clafter and Burke, in City Hall. This is the use of the trappings of government to try and convince someone to become a client of his law firm. Then there is one of the most quoted lines of this trial when Burke asked Solis if that developer we're talking about here had yet signed with his firm.
We land the tuna?
Well, almost. I pushed him that, that we're not very motivated.
If we land the tuna, there certainly will be a day of accounting. You can count on that.
On that point, MacArthur told the jury that's a financial tuna that he's referring to. Burke seeking to land a financial tuna for himself and his firm. Just now, court wrapping for the day, Burke's lawyers dirtying up former Alderman Danny Solis, telling jurors, well, why don't you ask yourself, why didn't the feds call Danny Solis to the stand? Why was it up to us to do that? Saying no one needed Ed Burke more than Solis, who used him to get out of his own legal mess. Now, tomorrow, the jury is likely to hear from the rest of the defendants in this case. Jury instructions likely to begin Monday, deliberations likely late Monday or Tuesday. Live in the newsroom, Chris Tye, CBS 2 News. Joe and Erica.
Winding down, Chris, thanks as always.